The last thing I'll say, Psalm 51, King David, man after God's own heart, one of the legends of the Old Testament, struggles with lust, sleeps with another woman, kills his best friend and her husband. So it's like, what the heck? I love that passage because like a lot of these Psalms, David is crying out to God in the midst of him struggling with sin. And it's in me, and you give the devil the license to use that sin against you and to bring that guilt and shame in your life. But he says, but when I confessed, the weight was off me. My bones weren't crushed. I humbled myself and said, God, I've sinned against heaven and earth. Thank you for forgiveness. And God, what's the strategy? And so like to invite people in, like, man, at the same time, like I may be, evangelizing and sharing Jesus because I love God, I really do, and I'm passionate about it. Like I'm also 21 and I'm trying to figure this thing out too. And the reality is it's like life sucks sometimes and it's hard. But when I started to begin and reimagine Jesus and my sin hurting him and beating him and ripping the flesh off his back and realizing that Jesus is a real person, it's not just words on a screen, he's not some legend. He is real. It changed my perspective of how my sin hurts God. And it makes me 10 times more likely to say no to that because there's no temptation that has overtaken me that's not common to man.
Amen.
And I can say no because it does hurt him and it breaks his heart. And that's not God's original design for my life.
Amen. Steve?
Yeah, that's really good. And you kind of echoed the parable of the prodigal, right? And I think in that parable, what's interesting is the prodigal is coming back. He's giving himself this pep talk. I'm gonna get back to my dad. I'm gonna say, I just want to be a servant. And the dad, and it's the father in the story that goes, no, you're my son, right? And so I think the root of what you're getting at, I actually believe it's an identity issue, right? And you see this explored in secular psychology with the atomic habits bit. Your identity will determine your processes will determine your outcomes. And so in Romans 7, it's literally what you're echoing, right? I'm struggling, this thing I hate to do, I do, but the things I want to do, I can't do. And then Romans 8 is the release of that. And there's an identity verse.
Break that down, because I just feel like, dude, there's so many people that walk away from God because the devil beat him. And the reason why I just want to, before you even bring this up, I think the reason why the gospel always brings up planting a seed is because the devil also plants as well. And people think that planting is like, oh, there's nothing